How to play your best golf. Featuring special guest instructor Bob Tosky, Dean of Golf Instruction, Golf Digest Instruction Schools. Peggy Kirk-Bell, a founding member of the LPGA and one of the best women golf teachers in the world. Rod Myers, director of the golf program at Duke University. Guest instructor Jim Flick, author and director of instruction, Golf Digest Instruction Schools. Carol Johnson, LPGA Teacher of the Year and a member of the National Golf Foundation teaching staff. Coach Conrad Railing of the University of Alabama. And series host Gary Wiren, author, teacher, and director of learning and research for the PGA of America.
Mastering the principles of a good golf swing is the foundation for playing your best golf. Take a look at the swings of these famous golf professionals. Each is distinctive, yet each one is successful because they all apply the same basic principles of a good swing. Understanding the principles is the first step to playing your best golf. Your golf swing will improve in direct proportion to the amount of time that you spend on mastering the basics. Golf is a target game. And if we're going to get the ball from the spot you're starting to that target, it's important, of course, that you can control distance and direction. As we start this series, we feel that you should know there are 5 laws of ball flight. Those factors which influence, which cause the distance and direction to happen. The first one is clubhead speed. Obviously, clubhead speed has a great deal to do with the distance you're going to hit the ball. Centeredness is also an important part in how far you can hit a golf ball. If I hit a shot, for example, 250 yards for a drive, but in this case, instead of hitting in the center, I hit it a ½ inch off center, I would lose some 35 to 40 yards in distance. So centeredness plus speed are the factors which produce distance for you. There are only 2 factors which influence the direction or shape that a ball takes. Those are the path in which the club head is swinging when it makes contact with the ball and the face position when it makes contact with the ball. The path can either be going directly to the target, it can be going from the outside to the in across the line, or from the inside to the out across the line. The face positions are 3 also, either open, square, or closed. When you put those in conjunction with each other, if the path is straight but the face is open, it puts a glancing blow which causes side spin and fades or slices the ball. If the face is closed to the line on which you're swinging or the path, then it will cause a spin that goes from right to left or a hooking type shot. It's really a matter of geometry. The lines of path and face related to one another are the things that cause the ball to go where it goes for direction. The last of the laws is angle of attack. How many times have you hit a tee shot where you've made a swing and you've popped the ball almost straight up in the air where you could feel like you could reach out and catch it on the way down? Well, that's a swing that has a very sharp descending blow. You came sharply down on the ball, hitting too quickly from the top, got the ball up high on the club face and popped it up in the air. That would be a nice shot for a wedge over a bunker, but it's not so good for a drive. So those are the 5 ball flight laws: angle of attack, the face position at contact, the path, the centeredness of the hit, and the club head speed. The study of the golf swing is a fascinating science, but you know there are some very important things that have to happen before that swing ever starts. We call them pre-swing principles. We look at things like grip, aim, and setup before the swing motion ever gets going. If you were to take a lesson from Jim or myself or your professional, the first thing we would look at would be grip. No lesser player than Ben Hogan once said, good golf starts with a good grip. And that's where we're going to start.
Your hands are your only connection with the golf club. Here's a tip that you might use to create consistency in placing your fingers around the golf club. Hold the shaft parallel to the ground about waist height with your right hand, making sure that the bottom line of the golf club is vertical to the ground. You might improve your consistency factor by marking your glove in a manner that will encourage you to get the club underneath the butt pad of the left hand, running diagonally beneath that into the second joint of the index finger of the left hand. That will allow the left thumb to slip slightly to the right center of the shaft of the club and enabling you to see two knuckles on your left hand. Then slide your right hand up the shaft carefully, keeping the club in the fingers of the right hand, using the lifeline of your right hand to cover your left thumb. In checking the placement of your fingers around the golf club, you would want to sole the club behind the golf ball, and then your checkpoint would be to make sure that the V formed by the thumb and index finger of the left hand and the right hand are pointing to a spot between your chin and your right shoulder. And I'd like to remind you, the golf club only weighs 16 ounces, so we don't need to strangle the golf club to keep it under control. If you are gripping the club so tightly that you cannot feel the weight in the head of the golf club and you only feel the grip end, I can assure you it's much too tight. We need to have sensitivity as we swing the club around our body, and the placement of our hands and fingers around the golf club will encourage that sensitivity to increase. A check that you might use to measure the pressure with which you are holding the club and the flexion in your hands, wrist, and forearm is what we call our vertical hammer thrust. You ought to be able to get some flexion in your hands, wrist, and forearms as you're moving the club around, and almost be able to get a vertical hammer motion where you can feel the movement in the head of the club and responding to your hands, wrist, and forearms to create the feel and movement of the golf club.
Anyone can shoot a rifle, but it takes a marksman to be able to hit a target, because a marksman needs to be able to aim. It's the same way in golf, because golf is a target game. The tour player probably appreciates this principle more than any other one, being able to aim his body and his club face.
My teaching experience leads me to believe that a vast majority of golfers are careless in the alignment of their club face and/or their body alignment to our target line. We've set up a situation here with some tape on the ground running to our ultimate target, the tree down there in the distance, to help you create an imaginary target line as you practice a routine that will give you some consistency. We see one of two mistakes in the average golfer. He either sets up with his shoulders far to the left, promoting an outside-in swing with a very glancing blow, or we see the other mistake being aimed to the right and then encouraging an outside-in swing again to pull the ball back to the target. Both create weak type of golf shots. To do a routine consistently, I would suggest that you walk behind the ball, getting the player, the ball, and the ultimate target in line. Then selecting a few feet in front of the ball, a broken tee or a piece of grass, an intermediary target on your target line. Then fixing your eyes on the intermediate target and the ultimate target, carefully place your club face behind the golf ball, tracking your eyes through the intermediate target to the ultimate target. Then building your stance of your body alignment to parallel your target line or to encourage the correct swing path, putting your feet in line with the path that you desire to create and making it very easy to get a swing on the right swing path to your ultimate target.
Coach Conrad Railing will help you learn to get your body and the club face aimed properly.
And in this particular drill, we're talking about the path of the club, and we've utilized two 2x4s, which shows us the target line, which is the right track, and the left track is what we call the footpath, and our body is parallel to it. So in this drill, we simply put the club down. We must return the club so the club face is square to the target line. And this 2x4 gives me a very good idea of whether or not I'm going down the target line. If the club is turned in or if the club is turned open, we certainly can't get the ball to the target. Now all we need to do in this drill is simply take the club back and make a small swing at first. We don't want to take a full swing right away, but we can learn how to get the path of the club to the target.
The third of the pre-swing principles is called setup. It includes your body posture, or how you stand to the ball, the relationship of the ball placement to your feet, forward, middle, or back, the distance you stand from the ball, all of these factors, so that when you do make a good golf swing, the ball will be where that swing is at the bottom when it makes contact.
To build a consistent posture and setup, it's important that we take the grip that we have now created correctly, place the club behind the golf ball, identifying our target line. Then you wish to hang your arms to your club to accommodate a position, giving you the arm freedom to let your arms suspend and hang softly from your shoulders. After you have placed your club and arms in position, your body will accommodate your arm hang, and finally adjust your feet for width of stance and ball position. We would encourage you to bend from the hips, keeping your back straight but tilted, and you will feel as though your chin is up to see your golf ball through the bottom of your glasses if you're wearing them, but your head will feel tall. You will feel as though you are supporting yourself in the back of your legs and thighs to accommodate a small amount of knee flex, approximately 3 to 4 inches, to give you a springy feeling in your legs. A drill that you might enjoy working with to identify the correct posture, weight distribution, and athletic position of your feet and knees would be a heel tapping action to give you that springy sensation that all good athletes have.
Grip, aim, setup, the pre-swing principles. You're now in a position to make the golf swing much easier. What is a swing? What does a swing feel like? Well, if I were to take this club and simply let it swing back and forth, there are some characteristics that I note. One, that I feel the weight of the club head. The second one is that there's some centrifugal force produced as I start to increase the speed. I will feel a pulling away out on the end and the weight of the club being swung. This comes primarily through the hands. It's the feeling in the hands and the feeling of the head out there through the hands. The hands are not so much producers of power, they're transmitters of power. And that swinging motion comes through the hands, transmitted by the arms, and then the muscles of the back, and finally the legs. It's a lot like other sports where we throw or strike. If I have a baseball swing and simply took a golf swing and put it up in the air more in baseball fashion and wound up and unwound, I would find that that would be very much like a golf swing feeling. The weight going to the right foot on the back and forward to the left foot on the through. A wind up and an unwind feeling. It's almost as if you were going to wind, unwind, and let her go, like this. That's the sensation you have as you make a swinging motion.
If you think about the parts of your body, the limbs are the parts that allow you to create a swing. I'd like to break the swing down into its 3 components. The first being the speed producers. The second component, which is the swingers, or the transportation for your speed producers. And we need to bring in our third element, and that is the pivot. I like to think of the hands, wrists, and forearms as your speed producers. The small muscles and bones of the hands, wrist, and forearm allow us the flexibility to create speed. We need to develop the ability to swing your arms around your body while the wrists are cocking, swing down and strike the ball while the wrists are uncocking and releasing, and to recock over on the other side of your swing. This is the very heart of the golf swing. A drill is very important. There is a drill that we call the tee to re-tee. It's not a very long swing. You're not trying to hit your ball very far, but you will swing back to almost waist high and feel the end of the shaft or the tee pointing to the golf ball. Let your arms swing down and rotate to square the club up while your wrists are uncocking and swinging over to the forward side of your body where the tee will be pointing back to the golf ball. This is a mirror image of the backswing and the forward swing. So we now need to think of the second component, which is the swingers, or the transportation for our speed producers. And to accomplish that, we need to now use our upper arms and our shoulders to move our speed producers around to the side of us and to the side of us, and get the feeling that we are swinging the club freely with our upper arms from our shoulders. There is a drill that will impart that feeling to you. We have you stand on your right leg and cross your left leg in front of you, and then to get the feeling that you are making the club move with your swingers up, behind your body, around, and strike your golf ball. But we need to lengthen out our arc now, and we need to bring in our third element, and that is the pivot. The pivot will allow your arms to swing behind you, through the ball, and in front of you. And to create the right pivot, we need the feet and legs to turn the hips. That gives us a sense of balance and a sense of rhythm between our lower body and upper body. A drill that you might find fun to work on for the responsibility of your feet and legs to create a pivot and give us a weight shift is what we call our baseball drill. You take your regular starting position, aiming your club down your target line, then pull left foot to right foot, club in front of your eyes. Swing to the top, step through, and swing through. The step before the swing, so you will feel the roll and support of the feet and knees to allow the arms to again stay free and the active release to come from the inside.
These are the three swing components. Each component has a responsibility in the overall development of the golf swing.
There's another element to playing the game that's important besides mechanics, and that's feel. Bob and Jim are going to work with us, first starting on the green and showing us how to develop feel in the small shots, and then carry that back through to the longer shots in the game.
You know, in playing golf, we have to understand that golf is a target game, and to find that target, we have to have some feeling for the golf swing through our hands and arms. And an ounce of touch is worth a ton of brawn in golf. So that's very important that we understand that when we start rolling the ball into the hole.
So you're going to help them feel the force of the club propelling the ball the given distance to our target area by starting in close to the hole.
Right. I'm going to teach the viewer today to feel the stroke instead of forcing the stroke, which I think is very, very important.
Well, let's see you do it.
All right, Jim. Let's start from about 4 feet. And the first thing I'd like to have all of you understand is when we play golf, we start with our hands, which is the only link that we have between the grip of the golf club and the head of the putter. So in order to feel the stroke that we're about to show you, the hands must be placed together. And if you'll join me in not pressing too tightly, you can feel how the swinging of your arms can be felt very freely and easily. The pressure of your hands, if they get too tight against each other, stifle your arm flow, and you cannot create a rhythmic stroke. You place the club behind the ball, aiming it toward the hole, and allowing my arms to hang freely from my body. And you swing and feel the force of the stroke. I said you swing and feel the force of the stroke. What am I developing? I'm developing a feel for a stroke called a golf swing. This is a golf swing rolling the ball in the hole. It's not a lift, it's not a push, it's not a stab, it's a swinging motion. A swinging motion creates a sense of rhythm. You'll see that the arms and hands are working as a unit without excessive wrist action as I swing the putter head back and through the ball. The hands are holding the club lightly, and the pressure is staying constant and the same as I swing the putter head back and through the ball toward the hole. Once in a while, we miss the putt, but 2 out of 3 isn't bad. That's success. And then we work back from here to the edge of the green and then start pitching the ball onto the green toward the hole.
Bob, we're about 30 feet from the hole now. How would you prepare your mind and body to negotiate this distance?
Now I've got to work on the distance of the putt. And this is where the length of the stroke and the speed of the stroke becomes very important in getting the ball in the hole or close to the hole. And how do we learn to do that? Well, the beauty of what I'm going to show you is that the stroke is going to be consistent in its rhythm.
Like a pendulum?
Like a pendulum motion which gradually picks up speed without being forced or jerked. I have a mannerism to put the putter head in front of the ball and then back to get a sense of movement that gives me some rhythm.
Boy, you got that good and solid.
Well, I got lucky and hold it on the first stroke.
Does your grip pressure change any now, Bob, as you have it a little further to make the ball?
My grip pressure has increased a little bit, and the beauty of understanding your grip pressure is when I place my hands on the club, if I can just take my right hand and squeeze my middle part of my left arm and be able to penetrate it, I know I'm not holding the putter too tight. I'm concentrating on the length of the stroke and the speed of the stroke, and I'm trying to keep my grip pressure constant and the same.
Have you made another one?
Now, I went by the hole, but the important thing is when we're putting from a distance of 30 feet is to trust the length of the stroke and the speed of the stroke through the golf ball, but keep your grip pressure constant and the same. And if your grip pressure is constant and the same as you swing the putter head back and through the ball, your stroke will be smooth. You'll hit the ball more solid, and you'll get the ball closer to the hole more often, even though you don't make it.
Bob, we've changed the situation now so that you have a distance of about 60 yards to go to the flagstick, 50 of it across this bunker and a little bit of wind in your face. You have a sand wedge in your hand. How would you prepare now to play this shot under those conditions?
My first thought is to get enough speed and enough length swing to contact the ball with enough force to drop it over that bunker onto the green.
So now we're going to see your feet and legs begin to support the motion of your hands and arms as your swing gets longer.
Yes, we have to learn to marry our foot action and hand action and our leg and arm action as a team. First of all, we place the club head behind the ball and aim it toward the flagstick. In so doing, the ball will be placed somewhere near the center of my stance, and my weight will be moved slightly forward toward my left foot. My hands feel slightly ahead of the ball, which gives me a feeling of creating a downward accelerated action into the ball as I shift my weight. As you swing the golf club back with your hands and arms, the weight of the club will bend and turn your wrist without you trying to force them. As you swing your arms down and shift your weight, your wrist will begin to unwind. As the club is striking down, the club is turning through and around, and your arms keep going around and up to complete the swing force to carry the ball to the hole. Watch and see how well I try to time the stroke of the golf swing by giving it plenty of time, around and up, down through and around and up.
When I watch you play that shot, Bob, it looks like there's enough swing to knock that ball 100 yards, but you have a lot of sensitivity and feel because of the smoothness and the softness in the movement of your body and arms.
I trust the freedom of my arms to swing the club around and up, which creates a nice body pivot, and I allow the weight of the club to cock my wrist. I don't try to force my wrist to cock and uncock. I let the weight and the speed and the length of the golf club to cock my hands and wrist in position at the top. The important thing is not to try to force the action of your hands and wrist and force the action of your arms, which disrupts the timing of your swing. Swing your arms, allow your body to turn, and trust your hand speed through the ball with your arms to get the ball up to the flag.
Nice, beautiful contact, Bob. I've seen you use the right hand off after impact drill here to help people identify the flow of control of the golf swing with their left arm and left leg a little bit. Would you mind doing that drill for us,
The
Bob?
beauty of this drill is so that you feel the left arm and the left side of the body moving to control the force of the swing through the ball. If the left arm stops, if the left leg stops, then the whole force of the swing, the whole force of the golf swing collapses at the point of impact. So this is the type of a sensation the player will feel as he goes through the ball. If he leaves go of the golf club right at the point of impact, or just after impact with his right hand, he'll feel the acceleration of his left arm around and up to carry the force of the swing through the ball. It's called right hand off after impact through the ball. Well, that keeps the golf club moving through the ball to carry the ball to the flag.
Everyone swings the club differently. Some are faster, some are slower. But the mark of a good player is the consistency with which he swings with every club.
Let's make some comparisons of Bob Toski making a 60-yard sand wedge shot, a full swing with a 5-iron, and a full swing with a driver. You used 3 clubs and obviously hit the ball 3 different distances. How would you compare your effort level on those 3 shots, Bob?
Well, Jim, I was concentrating on the length of the swing and not trying to force the effort level of my body. The word swing is the most important word to a golfer. I simply thought of the length and the timing and the rhythm of the swing. That's the name of the game of golf.
I get this feeling that your hands very much are aware of what the face of the club and the shaft of the club is doing, and your feet give you a sense of balance.
They certainly do, Jim. If I didn't do that, I couldn't be a very good golfer, because your 2 contact points in playing golf is your hands are touching the golf club and your feet are touching the ground. And you can only swing a golf club at a rate of speed in which the strength of your hands and wrists and arms can bear. Let's start by hitting a couple of shots with the 7-iron here and demonstrating hand and arm control. And you'll see that I'm swinging the golf club with my arms and hands, striking a nice, crisp, solid blow to hit the ball toward my target. Now, there wasn't very much foot and leg action there because I'm not trying to hit the ball to a great distance. But I am establishing the contact of the club against the ball through the use of my hands and wrists and arms, and I'm only swinging this golf club at a rate of speed in which my arms and hands can bear. Now, as I swing the golf club back a little further, you'll see that my feet and my legs become more active in supporting the speed and the length of my arms and hands. And you should work to that slowly and easily and not try to force the action of the upper and lower part of your body. I lose feel for the golf club and around the golf, and you will also, when you lose faith and confidence in your ability to trust what your hands and arms and feet and legs can do. The two things that will kill your golf swing faster than you can realize is tension and anxiety. How do you eliminate tension and anxiety in your golf swing? You start by sensitizing your hands on the club without getting too much pressure in your hands and arms. And when you do that, you eliminate excessive anxiety to swing the club too fast. Start with an easy swing, a short, easy swing to establish the feeling of the club swinging from square to open to square to close as it goes forward and around. And then try to simply increase the length of the swing and eliminate excessive tension and anxiety. When you do that, the swing feels rhythmic, smooth, timed, and well coordinated. We have seen more basket cases on the practice tee than you can imagine. It comes from the fact that, number one, the left arm tries to stay too straight and too rigid. And here's what happens when the player tries to keep his left arm too straight and too rigid. You find yourself swinging the golf club very vertical because the arm can't rotate. It's too tight. And therefore, that takes away the rhythm of your golf swing, and you might look something like this. You get going too vertical, and then you might force down or you might force up. You don't get a natural free rotation of your left arm moving around your body, over your right shoulder, down and around and over your left shoulder. So the left arm shouldn't be straight or too stiff. It should remain extended. Number two, the left heel staying down in the course of the backswing. We see more golfers trying to keep their left heel down, which takes away the shifting of the weight to the right foot, keeps the weight on the left side. Then the player has what we call a reverse pivot because he's not allowed the weight to get over to the right side to shift back to the left side. So if we're a little more toe and heel and allow the heel to come off the ground, our body will pivot much easier, the swing gets around our body freer, we get more rhythm and better timing and better balance in our golf swing. And keeping the head down. Boy, what a wonderful cliche that is. Most people that keep their head down never find the golf ball after they hit it. The head, you try to keep your head down, number one, your neck muscles get real tight and your shoulders can't turn because your cranium is staring at the ball and your neck muscles are restricting your shoulders from turning, and you look something like that. I've seen that so many times, it makes me ill to my stomach. In a good golf swing, the head follows the flight of the ball after the ball has been struck. Well, all great players usually have a good routine and a good sense of awareness of feeling what their body is going to do while they're preparing to hit the golf shot and while they're striking the golf shot. And I'd like to go through this routine and help you as a golfer become a better player through this routine in establishing the golf swing.
So that'll kind of turn off the mechanical aspect and get us into tying together the mental and the physical of the golf swing.
That's correct. Before I strike the golf ball, I look down my target line and I establish the type of golf shot I want to play. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to feel the correct position of my hands on the golf club, and I'm trying to establish the correct amount of grip pressure. I walk into the golf ball from the side, and as I do that, I keep looking down my target line through my eyes and establish the position of my golf club first against the ball. You notice I moved into the ball with my right foot first, then my left foot, and then I reestablish the position of both feet while I waggle the golf club back and through the golf ball. Looking down the target line with my eyes, I then sense the position of my ball in relationship to my feet, which is toward the instep of my left heel. At all times, I'm in movement with my hands and wrists and arms and feet so that my rhythm of my body will be smooth and easy. Once I've established that sense of feel, I'm ready to start my golf swing, and I feel a slight forward press with my right knee against my left. This helps for my feet and legs to get in rhythm with my arms and hands. I start the club head straight back along the line. I allow my arms and hands to swing the club around my body, and as I do that, I can feel my hips and shoulders turning in response to my arms and hands swinging around my body. I feel the weight getting over to my right leg, ready to move into my left side. The club is right over the top of my right shoulder. I have now established an excellent position to shift my weight. I feel my left foot come down. I feel my weight going into my left side. The club head squares up against the ball, and I feel my arms and hands move around my body and finish a complete swing with my weight well on my left side, and I try to follow the flight of the ball down the fairway. The word swing is the most important word to a golfer. Just remember that the golf swing is a measure of time. Give yourself time to swing the golf club. Give yourself time to move in position. Give yourself time to find that the swing will work for you. If you don't, you'll disrupt the force of the swing, mishit the ball, and the ball can go in any direction.
There are several things that a weaker and smaller player might do to get more out of their golf swing. And the one thing that I have found that has helped so many is for the player to keep their elbows together throughout the swing. And by that I mean their elbows would stay, like for instance mine are about 4 inches apart. I would maintain that same distance from back to through. See, this is where the meat of the swing is, from hip to hip. In doing this, you get that natural release. Notice the right hand climbs right over the left. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. Another point that you might want to try for added power would be to close your stance slightly. By that I mean you draw your right foot back of the line and even fan that right toe a little bit, placing the ball back to center a little more. And by that stance, I'll get a big turn and a good weight shift behind the ball. Most weaker players need to work on their left arm. And one of the drills I find most helpful is to make a right angle here, keep this flat, rotate the forearm over and hold, count of 5, rotate it over, count to 5. You're rotating this forearm and developing that muscle. This is where your golf swing is. Rotates here and there. Strength alone is not what gives you distance. What gives you distance is timing and rhythm, but you'll have to practice.
The practice tee is the workshop for the golf swing. It's where you take those ideas that you get from your professional and put them from your mind into your body. Work with your golf professional on your individual differences, and you'll find your answer to your own best swing. According to golf statistics, less than 25% of all of our shots are actually taken from the tee area or in a full swing out on the fairway. You know, I think those statistics are a little bit misleading because we know how difficult it is to try to make a low score when you can't get the ball in play from the tee. People frequently ask me, what's the secret to distance? And although physical factors are important like strength and flexibility, one of the best ways to improve is simply to Make your golf swing better to improve your technique and your timing. Peggy Kirk Bell and Rod Myers are at the practice tee now to help you on your technique for long irons and woods so that you can improve your distance.
Let's take a look at a few of the fundamentals that are going to be very basic in helping you be a better driver of the ball. As you tee the ball, tee it as high as you like, but a good rule of thumb is teeing half the distance above the head of the wood. If you're having trouble getting it up in the air, tee it a little higher. If you're hitting it too high, don't be afraid to lower the tee. I want you to realize the most important thing is getting into a good pre-swing routine. Work on this on the practice tee, make it consistent, and make it full of good sound fundamentals. A few ideas. Step in with the right foot. Square the club face to your target line. Spread your left foot out, and as you do so, you're getting your ball position inside the left heel. The width of your stance should be about shoulder width or maybe even a little bit wider. Your alignment is extremely important. Feet, hips, and shoulders should be lined parallel to the target line. Good extension with the left arm as you take position. The right elbow is going to be relaxed and set, allowing your body to set up and align correctly. Once we've got ourselves in good position, then we're ready to concentrate on the fundamentals in the swing. Starting with the arms, let the arms swing back low and slow. Take a nice full turn and let your back face the target. You'll notice the weight now has shifted more over to the right side, and I'm turning around the right knee. As we start the downswing, the lower body will start the action. Your primary thought should then be on letting your arms go freely right toward the target. Then concentrate on acceleration and allow the club to go through and finish very full. Let me hit one shot for you. Getting into a good position, same routine each time. Nice and slow, and finish on balance. The fundamentals for hitting the fairway woods are basically the same as those for hitting the driver. We're going to make a couple of minor changes. The primary change is the position of the ball. We want to move the ball back a little further towards the center of the stance. This is going to enable us to hit the ball with a slightly descending action, getting the club face down to the ball, and therefore getting the trajectory of the shot that we're looking for. With the driver, we had the ball placed a little more forward. This actually enabled us to use an ascending blow with the ball sitting on the tee. But as I take position, the same fundamentals that I worked on with the driver are important here. As we swing back, make sure that we're getting the weight back on the right side and turning around that right knee. Then as we start onto the target, make sure those arms are swinging and accelerating right down the target line. Watch the routine, stepping in, getting my ball position back just slightly further, couple waggles, and then swinging back and forth. You should find that you can play those fairway woods much easier with just consistent practice and a good routine.
If you can hit a 7-iron, you can hit a 1, 2, or 3-iron. The only difference between the 7-iron or your 5-iron and a long iron is the length of the shaft and the lack of loft on the blade. Therefore, you will play this iron similar to your 5-wood, meaning 2 inches inside your left heel with your weight equally distributed on both feet. Note that I would not widen my stance, and that's a common error that a lot of you will make because you have this longer club that you might be afraid of, and you'll get a wide stance and do a lot of body motion. So we'll keep our normal stance, and I'm going to grip a little bit on the inside of my right foot so I can use this right leg as a post and turn on it. Otherwise, I would give way. Very common on a long iron to give way. We want to stay right there, take it low along the ground, similar to your wood again, so that you get that big shoulder turn and that good body coil. Notice how I keep in motion, do not freeze, waggling away here. Take a little press, low back, through to the finish, in good balance, and hold. All great players are fine long iron players. You can be a fine long iron player, but you'll have to practice.
These are the clubs that seem to give all golfers the most trouble: the long irons and the woods. And there are 3 very good reasons for that. First of all, 2 of them are mechanical. The length of the club itself presents a problem, because we know that in golf, anytime we shorten down on a club, we have more control. And as the club gets longer, it becomes more difficult to wield and to be able to return it to an object, the ball down at the ground. So the longer the club, the more difficult it is to hit. Another physical reason is that these clubs, like this iron, which is a 1-iron, has a very straight face, straight blade to it. When a ball strikes that face, the ball has a tendency to go across the face to pick up spin, side spin, which curves the ball. Whereas in a 9-iron or a pitching wedge with more loft, it has more backspin, and the ball won't curve as much with backspin. So when you hit a driver or you hit a long iron and you have a lot of hook or slice, the reason primarily is because you've hit the ball a glancing blow and because it has a straight face to it. And the third reason is psychological. Think about it for a moment. When do you use these clubs? You use your long irons and your woods when you're a long distance from the target. Whenever you're a long distance from something, you're going to want to exert more physical effort to get it there. That's the psychology of it. You're thinking to yourself, I'm going to have to hit this hard. And of course, that's exactly the wrong psychology. Let me demonstrate to you the result of using that frame of mind when you go to hit a long iron. And it's not a good one. That's the typical swing that you see on the tee or in the fairway when someone's hitting a long iron like a 2-iron. What you should be seeing is a swing that looks more like this. Little psychological trick on myself. I don't admit to the fact that I've got a 1 or a 2-iron in my hand. I imagine for the moment that I have a 6-iron in my hand, and the 6-iron happens to be my to learn the golf swing. When I swing it correctly, I won't notice the shaft bending perceptibly. But if I try to hit rather than swing, too soon, the bad shot with the iron, you see the shaft bends noticeably, and I can feel it, and it will give me a very, very bad shot. Access to such an aid, you can take your own golf club and check it with a simple drill. A good swing sounds like this. The noise is where the ball is. In a bad swing, you've given up too much power and energy back where the ball isn't. And that's the difference between a hitting swing and a swinging hit. We want you to have a swinging hit. Now let's go out on the golf course with Rod and with Peggy and watch the tempo in their long irons and woods.
What a beautiful day.
Oh, it's great. Just terrific. Well, we've got the drives out here in nice position.
But look where they put that pin. Right over the bunker.
Here's the 200-yard marker. I'll park the cart here between both balls and let me get a quick yardage check back to that 200-yard marker. Well, I've got 12 paces. Looks like we've got about 188 yards to the center of the green. We got a little breeze behind us. I normally hit a 3-iron from 185. I think I've got enough breeze behind me to hit the 3-iron still, even though we're a little longer. I've got to make sure that I select enough club to get over the bunker that's guarding the pin. So the pin's a little further back. I want to make sure I carry the bunker. Most of the problem is over there on the left of that bunker, so I'm going to try to favor the right side a little bit. I'm going to aim about 20 feet to the right of the flagstick. This is not the time for me to start thinking about the technique and the things that I worked on the practice tee. That should come into play. I'm going to be concerned about developing a nice, smooth tempo and making good contact with the ball and not hurrying anything. So I've got plenty of club. I feel very confident in it. Get into my good setup position very naturally and then just make a good, smooth swing.
Great shot, Rod.
I'll take that one.
I've selected my 5-wood. Even though I'm 10 yards up in front of you, I could not carry an iron on that green and have it hold. If I was back a little farther, I would hit a 3-wood and play the opening over here and not carry those bunkers. But I'm going to take this 5-wood, hit it high, land it on the green, and it will hold. You'll notice that when I come in from behind to hit this ball, I will drop my right shoulder slightly, just sort of relaxing and feeling the swing. You notice that I will take a normal stance, and I feel very strong at this address position. I will waggle, stay in motion. This relaxes me, and I feel the rhythm of the swing. Then I forward press, big swing, and through to the finish. That gives me a high flying ball right on target, I hope.
How many times do you have a good round going and you come to a difficult, strategic driving hole, one which requires the use of your brain, not just your body? Well, we have such a hole right here in front of us. It's an interesting hole because it's a par 5 dogleg left with 2 fairways to it. A tempting fairway on the left that likes to draw you over there toward the trouble, and a more open fairway on the right with a stand of trees down the middle. But even before I plan my strategy for this hole, I have a little residual left over from the last hole because I 3-putted back there. And I might have a little anger still in me about the fact that I didn't make my par. And I don't want that to be brought with me to this tee, because if I try to use that and hit a little harder, I might end up, again, making a bad swing, hitting it into trouble, and costing me more shots in the long run. So what I'm going to do is to first tee the ball closer to the left side. In fact, I can tee it near the marker here and stand outside the teeing area as long as I tee the ball within the teeing area. I'm going to stand closer to this side where the trouble is because I want to work the ball away from the trouble. Now, a lot of you say, oh, I've heard that before. But you know, I've played with all kinds of amateurs who said, I've heard that, but they don't do it. You see, the angle it changes here may give you 10 or 15 yards more to the right than you would normally hit and save you from going out of bounds or in the woods. So that's why this is a good decision. The next thing I'm going to do is get a good picture of the shot I want to hit. I'm going to take it up over the trees on the left side a little bit and let it fade back into the fairway almost beyond the trees and a little to the right, so it's very safe. It's just too dangerous. The risks are too high to go left. So now I go through my alignment procedure where I look the direction I'd like to make my swing. I make sure that my grip, in my left hand in particular, is a little stronger than normal so my left wrist doesn't break down, the club head past my hands and hook it into the left rough. Then I'm setting my body line a little bit to the left so the ball will come back to the right. I go through my normal routine, which is the distance from the ball, measured by my left arm on my chest, the ball position just underneath my left arm for a teed ball, and then I just get a good picture of the best swing I can make and let her go and not worry about the consequences. And that's how I put a ball into position so that I make a par on this hole. When I'm working on my full swing, I like to pick out my favorite iron in the middle, which is a 6-iron. The reason I choose a 6 because it's really kind of an offensive shot as opposed to a little short pitch, which is maybe more defensive, like a wedge or 9-iron to practice with. This is a swing where we make a full motion swing to the target. And yet at the same time, differing from the driver, it's not one where I'm going to try to hit it too hard. Therefore, it's a very good middle iron to practice. I'm going to go through some of my routine as I prepare to hit a middle iron shot. First of all, in all good golf shots, paying attention to my grip. I like to hold my grip in front of me and look at my hand position before I sole the club to the ground. One of the considerations in the middle iron play is the positioning of the ball. For a teed shot, of course, we're up toward the left instep of the left foot, where we can hit the ball an ascending blow. But now that the ball is in the middle iron range, we're back a little more toward the center of the stance. It'll depend somewhat on how much leg action you use. If you use a lot of leg drive, the ball will be farther forward. If you don't use very much, it'll be more to the center. Feet are not too wide, not as wide as they are in a driver. Comfortable position, not quite as wide as the shoulders. So I'm paying attention to my details of grip, aim, setup, and ball position before I make my shot, each time. The middle iron swing, not terribly hard, and yet full in motion. Probably the most famous middle iron ever hit in golf history was a 5-iron that Jerry Pate hit to the 18th green at the Atlanta Athletic Club to help him win the U.S. Open Championship. We're fortunate today in having Jerry Pate's college coach from the University of Alabama, Conrad Railing, here to help us learn how to hit the middle irons.
The middle iron is very important because it's the second shot to the green, and of course these are the clubs that really give you the scoring punch. Jerry Pate had to play this shot for winning the United States Open Championship. He hit the 5-iron 190 yards, and one of the things that helped him perform this shot was the fact that he had good tempo and good rhythm in his swing. One of the little drills that we use to help teach this is by taking the club to get the idea of rhythm of the arms and the shoulders, is simply taking the club up, turning it, and striking the golf ball. That gives us a little bit of an idea of the speed of our arms related to our shoulders. We just turn and hit it. We're coming straight up, turn, and just hit it. And this helps us learn what the arms are doing. And if we just keep the swing smooth and keep our tempo and rhythm moving, we should be able to hit a good golf shot.
As we get closer to the green, accuracy becomes more and more important. Peggy Kirk Bell is going to show you 2 kinds of iron shots that can help you in your accuracy as you get closer to the green.
This is the fun club. This is the short iron. And this is the club that will give you the accuracy and will let you hit the ball to the green and right down in there for a 1-putt. We're going to take our stance, which is a little narrower than your 5-iron because you have a shorter club. Going to play the ball in the middle of our feet because I want a more descending blow down and through. And we're going to stand in our good golfing posture, which is lining your hips and shoulders and feet to your line. We're going to take the club back with a nice shoulder turn and through to the finish. The one fault that you're apt to make is because you're anxious to hit it, you want to put it to that pin, is to quickly snatch it back and fail to make that good shoulder turn. You must make that in order to get behind the ball and through to the finish. From this same distance, taking your 8-iron, you should have another shot, which is a 3/4 shot. And that is, you take the club back and half through. This will give you more accuracy, this will give you a feeling of control, and this will give you a little more action on the ball. On this 3/4 shot, I must be aware of my target line, and then I must make sure that my stance is slightly open, my left foot being back, and that I'm playing the ball about in the middle of my feet. Notice too that my knees are lined up on my target line, but my hips are slightly open with my stance. You notice my right knee's tucked in a little bit. My weight's going to hang left. My shoulders are going to be parallel to my target line, so that I am very, very aware of my direction and my target line. Oftentimes, the player will open their shoulders and they'll really cannot be aware of the line that their club is going down. Good shoulder turn, down and through. I kept my left hand and arm going through the target a little longer. This is very important to hitting this shot with some action on it. On both of these shots, it's important that you lead with the left in order to get the backspin on the ball. You might have a little drill where you would want to brush with your left, brush with your left, making sure that your left goes through to the target, keeping my head steady, swinging that left arm through to the finish.
Well, Coach, I'm going to have to get this one kind of close if Peg and I are going to catch you. You've gone through a lot of the mechanics on hitting the short iron shot to the green, but when you get to the spot on the golf course, there are a lot of things that have to happen in planning besides just making a mechanical golf swing. What we're going to do, first of all, is to decide how is the lie as far as the ball is concerned. If it's a difficult lie, I'd have to play a special shot, but this is a lie in which it's sitting up well in the grass, and so I can hit my normal shot from here. The next thing is the distance. I've looked back at my distance marker, taken my steps, and found that I'm 110 yards from the green. So I've selected my club that I use to hit a ball 110 yards in length. The next thing is wind, because this may be a factor also in my selection. Right now the wind is just a little bit behind me, and so that's going to help me to decide what effort I need to make in this swing. I'm going to have to let up just a little bit, not give it quite as much as I would for full effort. Also then I'll take a look at the problems around the green. There's a bunker right here in front, and if I buried the ball into that bunker, it might be difficult for me to get it up and down in two. So if anything, I'm going to make sure that, well, it could be a little bit long rather than a little bit short on this shot. Now I've got to get a picture in my mind of the shot I'd like to hit. I want to see it actually hit and see the ball going up in the air, curving to the target, coming down by the flagstick and rolling toward the hole. Now you might think that these things are advanced, pro tour player kind of decisions, but even the average player, the better than average player that wants to be better, if you want to be better, you'll find that these little extra decisions are going to help you in becoming more consistent in your game. I take a physical rehearsal after I've had my visualization. Even though you've swung the club thousands of times in practice swings, this still gives you a little reinforcement for confidence. Then I pick up an intermediary target to my flag. I draw a line back from the flagstick to the ball, and I've got a little leaf out here in the fairway. Just to the right of that is my spot to align on. Then I go through my pre-shot routine, which is grip, distance from the ball, ball placement, aiming, then setup, and waggle to stay comfortable to get ready to make my shot. Now, one very important point. I am not thinking arm straight, head down, slow back, mechanics, details. Those are the destroyers of the swing. What I'm thinking now is I'm thinking in pictures. I'm seeing what's going to happen in the next few seconds. And that helps me to produce that action. So I'm into my routine, I make my waggles, and I say, ready, aim, and flyer. And that's how we want to hit the shot from this distance. The delicate approach shot and the sand shot, for some people, are the most difficult shots in the game. Yet the professionals, they seem to make them look easy.
Good shot. Look at that.
All right. Good shot. Look at that.
He tried to put it in the hole and...
The approach shot is a challenging part of the game. It requires that you know your clubs, that you know the personality and the type of shot that each club produces. When you learn about your clubs, you'll realize that a 5-iron has a very distinct personality. When it's on the edge of a green and you only have a little distance to travel in the air, it'll hit it 1/3 in the air for you and roll it 2/3 to the pin. If you have a 7-iron, it's a little different personality. It's tipped back farther, so the trajectory off of the 7-iron puts the ball about 1/2 in the air and lets it roll 1/2. When you get back and you have a trap to go over, then you certainly must pick out your 9-irons or your pitching wedges, your sand wedges, to get the ball to go more than 2/3 in the air and roll on the surface. A simple way for you to figure out the distance of a shot is to imagine that you're a clock. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Segments of the clock produce different distances. A little segment from 7 o'clock with my hands at 7 and then over to 5 o'clock will produce approximately a 15-yard shot. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're using your 5, your 6, your 7, your 8, your 9, or the pitching wedges. If you want to go 30 yards, you allow your hands to come up to about 8 o'clock and swing over to 4 o'clock. Notice that in that action, there is no bending of the wrist at all. If I'm going past 8 o'clock and I want the ball to go 45 yards, then I'm going to take my hands up here, and as they pass 8, you're going to see that the wrist bends. That action and levering action is what produces the additional power that's needed to hit it 45 yards. As I come through, I release the power at the ball, and as I go over to 3 o'clock, you'll see them bend one more time. This is a typical approach shot. I'd normally start my approach from back in here. It serves two purposes. First, I've picked out a spot that's right in line with the flag and where I'm going to be placing my club to aim my club. The second is that I'm envisioning my shot. I really want to feel that shot going over the trap. I believe in my pitching wedge. My pitching wedge has that angle built into it. I just have to let the club do the job for me. We make mistakes when we try to artificially get that ball up over there. All I have to really do is take an ordinary shot. I'm taking a very normal stance. My ball is placed slightly forward in my stance. This time I'm going to swing back from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock and just let the club do the work. It really is a simple golf shot. Not very complex. You can see that I'm not doing anything artificial to do this. The club itself is doing the work. You know, if you recorded on a sheet of paper the number of approach shots that you had, 80% of them would be covered in this little shot we've just been describing. You'd only vary the club that you chose, or you vary the length of your backswing. But occasionally you're going to find times on the golf course when you have to add a different type shot, a shot that stops sooner than the normal shot. Whenever that occurs, then we're going to have to go into a more complex action of the swing. In this one, we're going to be taking much the same type of a stance. Our stance isn't going to be much wider than on the other one. The grip is going to be about the same, but I'm going to lighten my grip pressure. When I get ready to hit this time, instead of my average swing going from about 9 o'clock over to 3 o'clock, you're going to see my hands go from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. You're going to notice a decided slowing down of the entire speed of the swing. It's going to look like a lazy swing, like a very slow motion swing. Learning this speed is important because that's the big change between level 1 and level 2. Everything else is pretty much standard. I'm not changing things in my mind, but I'm changing the speed of my swing. We've moved the flag over from the position to it's right in front of the green here. I only have a very short amount of roll, and now I'm going to have to go to a more difficult shot than even level 2. At level 3, we change the stance that we normally have, which is square or slightly open, to a very radically open stance. The club face in my hand is also open. I'll be turning it just about as much as my stance is to the left. The face will be to the right. Notice that as I swing, I'll be swinging along my foot line like this. It really produces quite a cutting action on the ball. And even though my swing isn't very long, it's only going to be a little past 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in that range, I'm going to be cutting under the ball. When it lands, it's going to land a great deal softer. We brought the pin in a little bit closer to the edge. Now we don't have much room to land at all, so we're going to have to pull out just about every stop we can in making this shot. Where my stance would normally be a square stance, I'm going to open my stance rather dramatically. That's going to produce a path that goes to the left. The face will be more open than normal. I'll turn it like that before I hit. The ball is placed farther back in my stance, allowing me to hit a more downward action on the ball. Then I'm going to be thinking about the length of my backswing. It's going to be up higher than normal. I'll be taking the club from 10 o'clock to about 2 o'clock. I'm going back to that feeling of a slow motion shot. If you want to really play well and see that ball roll up to the cup, go out and put a little bit of time on your short game. Practice some of the difficult shots, but put most of your time in on the shots that are going to get you right up there and get you onto the green. Spend most of your time at level 1.
The psychological aspects of the game can sometimes be as demanding as the physical. Here I have what would normally be a routine little pitch shot. It's only 30 yards to the flag. But the architects have added some intimidation. They've put a nice big bunker right in front of me, between me and the flag stick. Well, what I have to do is overcome the fear that I might not have the right distance in this shot, because the direction is really not that difficult. So I've devised a little way to help me forget about the bunker and say to myself, I'm positive that you have the right distance. I call it dialing for distance. I imagine a little dial on the top of the club, and I'm 30 yards away, so I dial it to 30. It says 30 miles per hour. This is, of course, imaginary, just to help me get over the bunker. Then I say, well, my 30-mile-an-hour swing goes right back to here, this far back. And I know then if I go that far back, I will have the right distance, because I've done it with practice. And so then I say, just a 30-mile-an-hour swing, a 30. And that's how to overcome some of the psychology that you face on the golf course.
Most good players feel greenside bunker play is the easiest shot in the game. And well, they may be right, because there's no ball-club contact, and therefore the shot is more forgiving. It's important that you understand that the ball exits on a cushion of sand. The manufacturers have done us a great service in creating a flange at the back of the club that keeps us from digging too deep. I'd like to demonstrate for you by using this board with white paint that actually the flange strikes the sand first, not the leading edge. And that's the problem in most of our bunker play. We tend to get the leading edge down into the sand and get too much sand to exit the ball out of the bunker. So let's make a swing and see what turns up on the bottom of our club, and there's the white paint that fully illustrates that actually the flange strikes the sand first, not the leading edge. As in every shot in golf, first consideration must be given to the lie, because it will determine how we use the flange on our golf club. The ball has stopped on top of the sand, so we wish to use our flange in the most positive way possible, so we will open the club face and put the club behind the ball looking as such. Some of you are reluctant to open your club face that much because you feel as though you will shank your golf ball. Actually, a shank does not happen because the club face is open. The shank happens because the club is coming down away further from your body and you hit the ball up on the hosel of the golf club. So we use a drill to put the ball close to the board, then make your regular swing, and you will certainly miss the board, and therefore no shank happens. That will encourage you to learn to use the bounce on the golf club or the flange to control the depth of cut. However, I would like to caution you, first open or lay the club face back, and then take the correct grip. Please do not be careless and place the club in your normal position and twist your grip to accommodate the lie. That will lead to some serious problems in the bunker. Our ball has stopped on top of the sand, so my procedure will be to bury my feet and give me a feeling for the texture and depth of the sand, and to lower my swing arc so it's easy to get underneath the golf ball. I'll open the club face to accommodate the lie of the ball and then take my regular golf swing. That divot, or that cut of sand, is quite shallow because the flange did its job. It made the club ride through very shallow, but the length of the cut is quite long, about 12 inches or so. Now, from there, let's look at the second lie, which will be the semi-buried lie, the ball about halfway buried. Now, to get underneath the bottom of the ball, my club face position will now be relatively square, so that the leading edge is going to dig down and get underneath the bottom of the ball. And again, just make my regular golf swing. The depth of cut is considerably deeper. The flange was no longer doing the job of making the club ride shallow into the sand. Our third and final lie is the buried lie, which we don't like to find. I must now close the face of the club and turn the toe in to make sure that the depth of cut is deeper. Also, I will again place my feet in the sand to feel the texture and to lower the swing arc, but I'll put a little more weight on my left side and move the ball back in my stance to encourage a more descending or sharper angle of attack to get the club down underneath the bottom of the ball. Gosh, that came out pretty good. This cut is much deeper than the other two and not nearly as long in cut of sand. So many players feel as though they must do tricky shots out of the bunker. That's not really necessary. And I think you're much better off if you'll try to make your regular golf swing and working at removing the sand from underneath your golf ball and letting the cushion of sand throw it out and to your target. This is a drill that I would encourage you to use to help you develop the ability to control the face of the club with your arms and not your hands. It's the overlap drill with the right hand right over the top of the left, and then you will feel the flange going into the sand. Put your feet in the sand as you normally would, but a long, slow arm swing, feeling and hearing the bounce of the club as it strikes the sand. Now that you understand how to use the flange on your golf club related to the lie of the ball, we need to control the distance you hit your golf shot. To demonstrate the shot with the flagstick relatively close, I'd like to use this concrete block and get you to visualize the angle of your downswing coming at a very steep angle. Then we get the ball going a relatively short distance. In fact, our swing will feel like a letter V. We will set up with the weight on our left side. We will lean into our golf ball and make the club go quite abruptly upward and downward into the sand so the power thrust will be down against the sand and the ball will not go too far. And the ball will not go very far with that type of stroke because our swing looks and feels like a letter V. To negotiate the distance of some 30 feet further than the previous shot, I now need to make a swing adjustment so my swing feels more like a letter U. So, again, the concrete block, but I get further back and visualize my club coming in at a more shallow angle. And we see the ball coming out away from its lie in a lower trajectory. Now I must sense and feel my angle more like a letter U. The club will come along the sand at a very shallow angle, and that will put the ball further into the target area.
That's the cup. The other, a loose impediment, the pine cone. You can't move loose impediments in a hazard, but you can move the movable obstruction. So I will take the cup and move it. But the pine cone, I have to play as is. And of course, you're never allowed to sole the club in the bunker. That's a two-shot penalty. So if we were in this situation, I'd have to play it as is. And finally, you need to be a good housekeeper in the bunker. That means that you should take your rake in with you at all times, rake the spot from where you've taken the sand and, of course, your footprints, and now I can take the loose impediment with me. I'm going to exit at the lowest and nearest point to me. Putting and chipping are the two aspects of the game that have the greatest effect on your score. As a matter of fact, they're the great equalizers in the game between the strong and the weak player because you don't need a lot of strength to be able to make these shots.
This is the shot of his.
Ask any touring professional how important it is to practice the scoring shots.
Test anyone, so we'll just have to see. Looks good. Looks good. Do you believe it? What can you say?
The basics of the spectacular shot that you just saw are very similar to the chip that Rod Myers is about to demonstrate.
Our ball is located about 6 feet off the edge of the green. I've got about 45 feet of putting surface. The shot that I'm going to be trying to hit is a pitch and run or a chip shot, which by definition is a low pitch shot. We want it to fly about 1/3 the total distance in the air and roll about 2/3 on the green. Our club selection should be a medium lofted iron, 5, 6, or 7 iron. I'm using a 6 iron for this particular shot. You'll notice that the ball comes off the club face on a low trajectory and then rolls on towards the hole just like a putt would. The fundamentals in this shot are extremely important but very simple. Keep the stroke simple. It's one of the easiest shots in golf. It is a pendulum motion starting from the shoulders. It is a one lever motion, which means that we don't have any wrist action involved. As you can see, as I get in position to hit the ball, very simple, back and through, using my arms and shoulders, swinging toward the target. The fundamentals are very important. A good basic grip, palms opposing, but we're going to choke down on the shaft for better feel. We are going to have a more narrow stance, and we will be closer to the ball than normal. The ball position, 1 inch to 2 inches inside the target foot. Get into a good posture position, knees flexed. Just before we start the swing, move the hands forward, reducing the loft of the club, getting us in a position to hit the ball low and make it roll. We want to swing it back and through and make sure that we hold the position with the back of that leading hand so that there's no wrist break. Remember, pendulum swing, back and forth, initiating from the shoulders, no wrist action. We want to hit a low shot, maximum of roll. An excellent drill to use to improve your technique for the pitch and run or the chip shot is the tracking drill. The purpose of this drill is to emphasize the importance of moving your club head back and forth along the target line, therefore emphasizing good accuracy with the shot. Slightly open stance enables you to keep the club moving along the track much easier, so we swing the club back and forth along the track between the two clubs. A very good drill that will give you instant feedback on your technique for the pitch and run or the chip shot is the extended shaft drill. Assume your good address position, hands ahead, and if swung properly and your leadership with the left hand is the way it should be, the shaft of the club will stay away from your body. Maintain that good one lever pendulum action and you can save your side of bruising. Wristy action, the club shaft will hit your side. At address, hands forward, strike, and the club shaft will stay away from your body. Let's take a moment to evaluate this shot. My ball is lying in the rough. I've got to carry over the bunker. I've got about 20 feet to the green, but I still have about 45 feet of green to work with. Do we hit a chip shot or do we hit a pitch? A pitch shot is a lofted shot that is going to land close to the hole. The talent and technique is a little more advanced. The consistency is a little more difficult to control. Therefore, I feel the best players in the game will still make the choice to hit the pitch and run from this position. A few things that we have to take in mind. We are going to take a more lofted club. I've got a pitching wedge. Take notice of the uphill lie. Let's adjust the ball position slightly more toward the target, making sure that we swing our arms with the hillside, going up the hill. But the same one lever pendulum swing is going to be the same as what we were working on before. Simply swing that lever toward the target, let the ball land on the green, and run back toward the pin. I'm practicing a very delicate pitch and run shot here. As you can see, I'm on a very steep slope. I'm about 10 feet off the green. I've got about 20 feet of green, but because of the slope, I've got to land the ball just on the edge of the green or on the fringe. As you take your position in making this shot, make sure you move the ball well back in your stance. Take a lofted club so that you're not afraid of the ball rolling away from you. This is a sand wedge. As you take your position Make sure that you're leaning with the hillside, that you get your shoulders sloped properly. The same good principles of the pitch and run of the chip shot, just take it nice and easy, make that ball land right on the fringe.
Here we are on the putting green, where we could argue that this is golf's most important shot. You know, for over a century, man has searched for the perfect putting implement. You've probably seen unique examples in your own golf shop. But he's also been looking for the perfect putting technique. He's tried things not only in a conventional grip, but with reverse overlapping, cross-handed, split-handed, side saddle a la Sam Snead, and with the toe in the air, as does Mr. Aoki in Japan. But we're going to look at some solid fundamentals given to you by Carol Johnson, which will help you to find your own best putting style.
Putting is the most individual part of the game, and because of that, we want you to be able to choose your own putter. Remember that putters have to feel good to you, and they have to look good to you, or you won't do your very best with them. One of the important parts of putting is to take the club and find out where the sweet spot is. Where the club comes straight off like that instead of the twist off of the toe or the heel. The putter that we just had has to be gripped, and when you're gripping it, we want you to be just as personable about this as you were about picking the putter. Your hands are really placed on the club much like they were in the regular grip. When they're moved apart, the thumbs come down the shaft a little softer and a little bit more straight like that. And many of us will change the overlapping on the back and reverse one finger in the overlapping so that we get the club all in the right hand where it's sensitive to feel and where it can control the club. Certainly we want you to have individual parts to your game, but in order to have the fundamentals of your putting stroke sound, we must have three fundamentals. We must first have your eye over the ball or over the intended target line. A very simple way to do that is to take your club and hold it over the ball so that the line plumbs right down over the ball and the toe is pointing toward your target. As I lean over, the bridge of my nose is right over the top of the club. To double check myself, I move the club away, put the ball up on your nose and drop it down, and if it lands on the ball, then you know that you're directly over the ball or over the intended target line. The second important fundamental is delivering the club down the target line in a straight fashion. Right through the hitting zone, we want that club to be traveling straight toward the target. We're suggesting that you either use 2x4s, and you can use these at home on your rug in your living room, or you can use two books placed side by side. That'll be fine, but anything to direct the club down the hitting area. It's a very simple fundamental. It's just to put it in there, let the club slide back and forth along that line. And it's not very difficult to learn to keep that stroke exactly square to the target. Notice that when we've been putting, that the whole triangular action of our arms is taking the club straight back and straight forward. There is no body action. We're not using our body, and that brings on the third fundamental. It's important that your body not move, that it holds stable and let it just be an arm swing. Just as in Rod's short shot, it's an arm swing. Tempted sometimes to use your body and turn into the long ones. Don't let it happen. Just let the club come straight back and straight forward. Whenever you've signed yourself on the putting green, whether you're practicing or playing, you want to take all the factors in that are going to help you with this putt. You're going to look at it from 3 angles if you can. You're going to be walking around, digesting the area and looking at that area where the putt's going to land. Probably the most important part of getting the feel of this shot is to pace it off from the cup all the way back to where your putt is. By doing this, you tell your mind, this is, for me, a 16-pace putt. I'm learning how much of a 16-pace putt is. I'm practicing them. Telling yourself how far it is gets into your mind and ingrains that thought in your mind. Now from behind the putt, it's important that you take your last final look. I know that the break is going to go from left to right. Of the thoughts that I'm going to make this putt. I'd like to, but my realistic mind tells me that I'd like to end up about 3 feet around that circle around that cup. I'm putting straight for the spot out there and letting the ball go around the corner. Each time I practice, I'm saying to myself, 20-pace putt inside the circle. I'm very deliberately trying to putt a straight putt. I don't want to get the feeling that I'm trying to curve that putt. Straight down the line, across the point, and let the curve work for itself. This distance that I'm using is a makeable putt. I feel when I get ready to hit it that I can make it. So every time I hit it, I'm going to try to hit not just to the cup, but about a foot beyond, so that I have plenty of chance to get this ball in the cup. You have to believe they're makeable and never leave it short. Always have it at least 1 foot beyond. It's important on the day of play that you go out and try a few little practice shots before you get started. For example, you want to start very close to the hole and take a few little strokes, a few little putts that you're sure you can knock in, just to get the feel of the shot. Just to begin to let your hands feel the putter again. Pick those up, go out and practice on the rest of the green and hit some 35-foot shots. Hit a few 12-foot shots, hit a few 10-foot shots, but the last thing you want to do is come right back to this beginning area again. Drop the balls down. Make sure that you're taking a little bit of a shot in again to reinforce the fact that you hear the ball going into the cup, that you have that positive feeling that you can make the putts on the course.
Over the years, the rules of golf have changed. On the putting green, not too many years ago, in fact it was the 1950s, we used to have to negotiate stymies. If a ball intervened between you and the cup, you had to either play around it or play over it. The niblick, as the 9-iron was called in those days, was the tool that was primarily used. And so a shot in your bag had to look something like this. Of course, I'm not allowed to strike the flagstick with my ball when my ball's been resting on the green. I can use the flagstick from off the green, however, and there's no penalty. Another thing that the flagstick is sometimes used for is when your partner or caddy want to show you the line on which you should putt. In that case, they're not allowed to touch the line, but only indicate it momentarily. Also, you're not allowed to improve your line on the way to the hole by tapping down irregularities in the green, but you are allowed to do this. For example, my ball has just struck the green and taken some spin backwards. and I can fix my ball mark. In fact, I should be fixing my ball mark. And I also could remove loose impediments from my line. But just in front of me, up near the hole, there are some spike marks. I'm not allowed by the rules to improve or to fix those spike marks, and not until after I have putted. So I just will take my stance and grip, forget that they're for the time being, make my putt, and fix the spike marks after I've holed out. If you've ever experienced tournament competition at the club or local level, you may have noticed that there was a little extra tension, particularly when you get on the putting greens. Well, I'd like to give you a tip on how to reduce some of that tension. One of them is simply to tighten up your muscles as you walk onto the green as tight as you can, and then let go, relax, let the tension drain out. Another way is to take some deep breaths. It's been proven through psychological research that deep breathing and then releasing that breath will help you to reduce tension. I had another gentleman who once told me, if you feel that you're too tight over the putt, your tension in your grip is too tight, think feathers, nice and light. And so I'm going to put a little feathers into this one.
Even the best golf professionals occasionally rely on that old-fashioned technique, body English, to help coax the ball those last few inches into the cup.
You know, there are some situations in the golf course from which you can't physically recover. One is when your ball is lost, and another is when it's out of bounds, as it is in this case. Even though I'm only out a couple of feet, the rules say I must play another shot. What I've done is played a provisional ball. If I hadn't done that, I would have to go clear back to the tee or where I previously played my shot and play again. So by playing a provisional ball when I think it's lost or out of bounds, I help to speed up play, and that's a very good practice. There's another kind of recovery on the golf course that is necessary. That's a mental recovery. You can't escape adversity out here, but you have to learn to cope with it. If you let yourself get down because of a bad break or a bad shot, like hitting one out of bounds, you're not going to be a very successful player. There are legions of stories about players who have overcome adversity by being positive, starting with 7s and 8s on an opening hole, yet still going on to win tournaments. So that's a skill that you're going to have to develop. We're going to go out on the golf course now with Rod and Carol, where we put them in some very difficult situations, and they're going to show you how to recover.
Finding your ball in a fairway bunker can be a very challenging shot. It's not a time to panic. It's a time to let your mind work and carefully evaluate the situation. First of all, take a good look at the lie of your ball. Evaluate the lip of the bunker, how high it is, taking into account what type of trajectory will be necessary to get the ball safely out of the bunker. The primary thing that we do not want to do is hit the sand first, so we're going to make some changes to help prevent that. As you position yourself in the bunker, normally we would be playing the ball a little more toward the left heel. We're going to move it back more towards the center of the stance. Then dig your feet in a little bit more at an angle with that rear foot. Dig in the back so that you've got a good, stable position. Because we've lowered ourselves in the sand, let's choke up on the club a little bit, again, helping to prevent hitting the sand. Because we're buried in the sand, we're not going to have the normal leg work that we may have in the grass. Therefore, our swing is going to be restricted. This should have been brought in with your club selection. I've got to take more club from the fairway bunker than I would from the grass itself. The main thing I want to do now is not hurry, have good tempo, and concentrate on the shot, looking at the target, making a nice smooth swing. rules of golf do not permit you to sole the club in the bunker. Therefore, we must hold the club above the ball. Again, we've choked down on it. This will help us from touching that sand and keeping us from hitting behind the ball during the shot. In an effort to not allow tension to build up in your upper body, keep your arms loose. Simply don't bend as much at the waist. Keep your body moving, again, so that you're free of tension. Then give the swing the smoothest one you've got.
When you find yourself in the rough and you find pine cones or pine needles around your golf ball, you can remove them. You can get rid of them. But be sure that if you removed them within a club length of the ball, that you haven't moved the ball, because that's going to cost you a one-stroke penalty. Look at the ball. Decide what the lie looks like. You're always going to play the lie over the distance. You're going to take a club that's going to get you through the thickness of the rough. I picked a 7-iron to get out of here because this rough is fairly deep. The grass presents a little bit of a problem when it's thick. Whenever it's thick, I must lift the club up a little faster on my backswing. I can't drag it through that grass. I'll be taking the club up out of that position, and I'll be hitting it with a little bit more of a descending blow to make sure that I'm clearing through that thick grass. Remembering that the important thing about this shot is that you're playing the lie and getting the ball out of that position before you're worrying about the distance. Here's a different situation. There's no reason when you find your golf ball in a high position like this that you can't use your 7-wood or a 5-wood and make good face contact with it. There's no reason why you can't use a wood out of the rough. Use your woods, use your 7-wood, use your 5-wood, and make your normal shot.
In this game of golf, we do not find ourselves always in a perfect lie. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about uneven lies. And one of the key thoughts that we should have when we're working with an uneven lie is balance. You must maintain good balance in order to make a good golf swing. The uphill lie is probably the easiest of all the uneven lies. First of all, you want to play the ball off your higher foot. Secondly, we will tilt our shoulders to follow the slope of the hill. And third, we will take a 3/4 swing and finish high, following the hill. Three-quarter swing, finish high, follow the hill. When you find yourself on a downhill lie, it's the same principles as your uphill lie, which means that you will play the ball closer to your higher foot, playing back off the right foot, and you have selected a club with a little more loft because your 7-iron will become a 5, and you will play that 7-iron. You will tilt your shoulders with the slope of the hill, so you get a good shoulder turn. You take it away with that turn, and you follow the hill down and through. You will tilt your shoulders with the slope of the hill, follow the hill down and through. Here we have another uneven lie with the ball above our feet. And in this shot, we will play the ball in the center of our feet. You need to take a practice swing so you can feel the bottom of your arc and know exactly how that swing's going to feel on this uneven lie. Then you will choke down on your club a little bit because you're closer to the ball. You will aim to the right of your target because the ball is going to go from right to left. So I'll aim slightly to the right and let the ball draw or hook. You notice that I will lean into the hill a little bit to maintain my balance. You must have good balance, especially on your uneven lies. I'll take a 3/4 swing, slow, through to the finish. When you find yourself with the ball below your feet, this is probably one of the most difficult lies you can have. There are 4 things that you should do. Number 1, instead of reaching for the ball, you should step in a little closer to the ball and flex your knees, putting the weight back on your heels a little bit to maintain better balance. Number 2, you would stand to the left of your target line. Here's your target line. You would play down the left side of the fairway, lining up hips, shoulders, and body all to the left, because the ball will tend to slice or go from left to right. And I will take a 3/4 swing, again, for more accuracy and more control. And I must make sure that I make a nice, smooth shoulder turn in that 3/4 swing back and through. And notice how I stayed down with it longer. The tendency is to come up. And this is what we want to guard up against. Stay with it and swing out and through.
Intentional hooks and slices can be very challenging shots. They're not nearly as difficult as most people believe them to be. If you can put the club face onto the ball squarely, you can make it curve. The important thing that you must realize, the position of this club face, the moment it strikes the ball, will determine whether it slices or hooks. If the face is open, you get a clockwise spin, it curves left to right. If the club face is closed, you get a counterclockwise spin, it curves right to left. As I set up for this intentional slice, this board indicates our line to the target. It's blocked by trees, but the club face should aim that direction. This board indicates my open pathway to the left. Make sure as you set up to hit that you aim to the left side, to the open area. The club face now, rather than aiming to the left, aims back to the target. So therefore it is in a very open position at address. The important thing now is that you must swing the club down the open area. The tendency for many players is to push it right into the trees. I must swing into the open area. I have to have confidence that the open club face will slice the ball around. Good setup, swing the club along the pathway toward the open area and let it slice back. In this particular situation, my ball is about 210 yards from the green. However, trees are obstructing my pathway directly to the target, but I've got an opening around to the left. So my plan is to slice the ball around. I've selected a fairway wood, going to aim my body to the left into the opening, give myself plenty of room. Then I'm going to open my face and aim it toward the pin. If I can just make a good swing toward the opening, the open face will cause the ball to curve toward the green. Hitting the intentional hook can be just as easy as the slice. The primary factor you must remember, the club face must be closed when you hit the ball. This board indicates our line to the target. This board indicates our line to the open area that our body must line up on. Again, we aim the club face toward the target, which is going to be very close to the position we're standing in. Therefore, as you get in position, make sure that you're aiming to the right of the target. Your club face is still aiming toward the target. Once you've got everything set, make sure you swing the club out to the right and have confidence that it will hook back. You may hear of some different reasons to hook and slice, changing the grip, releasing, or blocking as you strike the ball. We think this is the simplest way. Simply make your change before you start your swing. In this particular shot, my ball's still lying a little over 200 yards from the green. However, my only opening now to the target is to the right of these trees that are blocking a straight shot. Therefore, it's calling for an intentional hook. I'm going to also use a fairway wood, but where I used a 3 wood with the slice, I'm going to a 5 wood with the hook because I've got to shut the face down. Same thing in the fact that I'm going to aim my body toward the open area. I'm going to set up and then close my face and aim it back toward the pin. Then it will just be my normal swing, aiming out into the open area, make sure I'm swinging the club on a pathway to the opening, and let the face cause the curvature of the ball toward the target.
Whenever you find yourself in a position where you have to hit a ball over an object or under an object, it's important that you know the trajectory of each one of your clubs. If, for example, you want to hit the ball into the wind or under a branch, then it's important that you play the ball back in your stance, that you play your hands farther forward, that you keep in mind that the shot is going to go low and under the tree using your less lofted clubs. Your swing will be lower on the follow-through, and you'll feel that low feeling under the shot. I'm feeling that trajectory. Now when you find yourself in a position when you want the ball to go unusually high, a shot with the wind behind you or a shot where the trajectory is higher than its normal trajectory, play the ball a little bit farther forward in your stance. Catching the ball on the upswing, you're going to use your more lofted clubs and you're going to envision that the shot is going up. You'll feel yourself hit it and up on the follow-through a little more than normal. My imagination is allowing me to see the shot go over the tree right now. There's no reason why you have to worry about a golf shot that looks like this. Just have to understand that you can get yourself inside of this area, stabilize your stance, hold your club down a little bit, making sure that you make a swing that's over one ankle and back and over the other ankle. The temptation is to swing high on your backswing and end up with a shot that's up in the tree. So by stabilizing my body and swinging very low to the ground on either side, I can get out of here without a great deal of problem. If you find yourself in this position and you've decided not to take an unplayable line, there are about 3 ways you can get out of this shot. You can reverse your hands on the club, play the ball toward the center of your stance. In this particular case, I'm going to use the back of my putter to make the shot. My whole job is to get the ball onto the green, not worrying about how close, but just a good shot out of here. Another shot you might use is to take your club, taking an 8-iron or a 9-iron, invert the face. Again, reverse your hands, play the ball in the center of your stance, and again, just get the ball out of the position onto the green. Another way that we enjoy, and it's probably the most fun of the 3, is to take a 6-iron or a 7-iron, playing the ball off of the back of your heel. Turn the club over, hold it down, trying to make one lever swing like this. Just hit the ball out backwards. You can really go quite a distance with that one. It's a fun one to use. Try all three of these. They can get you out of some trouble without too much of a problem.
Golf's normally a safe game, but the recovery shots can sometimes tempt you into taking unnecessary risks, like following through and hitting the shaft against the tree. And there are documented cases where people have done that. The shaft is broken off and they fatally stabbed themselves. Also be careful when you're in a group of trees about hitting a ball that could rebound and strike someone else and injure them. The idea is you should try to recover, but don't take unnecessary risks. In every kind of profession, you learn some little tricks that can help you. And even though that looks maybe impossible, there are some things you can do which will help you get that out. And so I just want to show you how to hit it. First of all, you do have to get a good, stable base with your foot. You have to dig in a little bit more because you're going to make a hard swing at this one. Secondly, you choke the club down, turn the toe in and close the face, and hold on as tightly as you can with your hands, as firmly as you can. And then lean to the left, well into the bank, and then do this. Sure you're gripping tightly and firmly. And that's how you make that shot. Sometimes we face situations on the golf course from which it's either impossible or unwise to play, and that's what I have here. I do, by the rules, have the opportunity to declare it unplayable. That's what I'm going to do. I can take the ball and drop it 2 club lengths, no nearer the hole, away from this location. Or I may go along the line drawn between the flagstick through my ball as far back as I'd like to hit my shot from there. You also can declare your ball unplayable in a bunker. I have the same options here as I had in the other circumstance. I can take the ball and drop it 2 club lengths no nearer the hole, as long as I stay in the bunker. I can take a line from the flagstick through my ball and go back as far as I'd like, staying in the bunker. Or another one that I can use in either case, and that is to go back to the spot where I hit my previous shot and play from there. Of course, in all these examples, there's a 1-shot penalty added. Well, I've hit my ball short and managed to pull it into the hazard, and now I've got to make a decision. Actually, I have several choices. One of them is that I can play the ball from that position, but since I'm heading in the direction toward the flag, I wouldn't get a very good stance, and it's just too risky. Secondly, I can take the ball out of the hazard and place it 2 club lengths from the margin of the hazard, or if there are stakes here, from the edge of the stakes, no nearer the hole, face the hole, and drop the ball over my shoulder, and as long as it doesn't roll more than 2 club lengths, I have a correct drop. Another option, which doesn't appeal to me in this case, is to be able to take a line from the flagstick through my point of entry and go back along that line, as long as I don't go near the hole, and play from there. Of course, the last option is always to go back from where you played your previous shot and hit from there. So those are the options that I have in this particular case. The other part of my recovery is a mental recovery. I can't do anything about what has already happened. I just have to take my penalty. I'm lying here in 3, having hit the ball in 2, dropping it, 1 penalty shot. I can still make a 4 if I hit a great shot. And that's the way I've got to think about it, in a positive way, and that's what I'm going to do. This ball has found casual water. It's a temporary accumulation of water on the golf course. It's not meant to be a hazard. You're allowed to take the ball out of the casual water and you get a free drop. Determine where the edge of the water is, where you entered, and you get 1 club length distance away, no nearer the hole, and you drop from there. In this case, I would move a little to the right. My target is in the distance, rather than moving to the left, because a drop here might have the trees interfering with my backswing. So as long as I stay within 1 club length, I can drop. And providing the ball doesn't roll more than 2 club lengths away, I've made a correct drop and I can play from there. In similar situations, such as in a burrowing animal hole, near an immovable obstruction, or in ground under repair, the procedure is basically the same. Now, if your ball is lost under some of these conditions, it's a little bit different. You have to be able to have reasonable evidence that that is where your ball is lost, such as if your partner saw it go into the casual water. Then you'll also get a free drop. You see, most people think the rules work against them. But if you know your rules and your options, you can make them work for you.
Next time you find yourself in a trouble spot, take note of how often you've seen even the top touring professionals in trouble situations.
One of our fine PGA professionals, Paul Bertheley, told me a few years ago that the greatest fallacy in learning was the expectation of execution from suggestion. The idea that someone could tell you something about the golf swing and it would automatically go into your muscles. It's just not that easy. You have to practice. In fact, one of the most elusive things in golf is to develop confidence. And confidence only comes from preparation. And preparation is practice. In all sports where the players care enough about their performance, they take the time to warm up. Golf should be no exception. We want to encourage you to do that, as Jim Flick and Peggy Kirk-Bell are doing now as they prepare for their round of golf.
Peggy, how do you like to start your warm-up session?
Well, I like to just stretch a little bit. That's my first thought. I just stretch and stretch, and then I start swinging my arms, feeling that, stretching those old bones. And you notice my feet are responding to that.
Yeah, they sure are. So many players don't get their feet moving well enough to support the movement of their legs and their hips and their arms and hands, do they?
They sure don't. I think that's a common fault. One of my key thoughts to bring my swing back together is keeping my elbows together. And if you watch Jack Nicklaus or Tom Watson or Tom Kite, their elbows are like this on the backswing. When they come through, their elbows are still together. Well, I'm almost ready. I don't like to hit too many balls before I tee off. Just get loosened up.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Peg.
Hey,
good morning, Gary. How you doing?
Nice to see you.
Ready to play?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to do a little warm-up for the benefit of the viewers that they might face when they get to a golf course and they haven't had a chance to hit balls like we did this morning. I call it no-ball warm-up, and something you can do before you play in place of ball hitting, which is, of course, ideal, but we don't always get that opportunity. So I take my 2 heaviest clubs, my 2 wedges, and start with my small muscles that we use a lot in the golf swing and that are very important, and gradually start lengthening my swing, stretching the muscles of my back and legs, keeping my tempo that I would like to have in making that first swing a little bit like you felt, a little bit more slowed down, not too hurried. After I've done that and I feel a full stretch with those clubs, the next thing is that my driver, which I would use probably most of the time off of the first tee, my driver doesn't feel so heavy. You know, sometimes you wake up and it just feels like a heavy pole out there. Now it feels a little bit lighter. And I take the driver next and I put it in my low back to stretch the muscles here, feeling the little stretching in the low part of my back. And then finally the muscles up a little higher in the back. And if you'll put your hands and just pull it across your back here a little bit, put your hands on the club and turn and stretch, what happens is that you get your muscles in your shoulders and arms and back ready to be used to make a swing. You know, football players, baseballers, basketballers, they go out anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours beforehand to warm up, but golfers think they can come to the first tee, swing at 2 dandelions and a cigarette butt and say, you know, what are we playing for? And really, physiologically, they're not quite ready to go. My last little stretch looks like this, and you can hear that pop just a little bit. There, now, I feel like I'm more ready physically to make a swing now. I make a practice swing or two. My tendency is to hit a little bit too much with my right, like a lot of people, so I make one or two practice swings feeling my left side. Now my arms feel long and loose, which is the way I want to feel in the first tee. I want to feel uptight. That's a good expression, because really that's what it is, uptight. It isn't very good for golf swings. And so I want to feel more long and loose, and that's the feeling I have now. How would you describe this hole and tell us how you're going to play it?
Well, even though it's fairly long, I think it's something like 410 yards and a little dog leg to the right, I'm not really ready to let my driver go, so I'm going to try to go with a 3-wood this morning and feel I can keep my ball in play off the tee.
Okay, go ahead.
The wind's changing a little bit, Gary, and I feel more comfortable going to the left side of the tee, even though the wind's coming a little bit from over my shoulder here. As I teed up my left shoulder, I'm going to try to pick out a spot in the left center of the fairway and see if I can get my swing long enough and slow enough to give all the parts a chance to work, get the club into the back of the ball from the inside. Gary, I've picked a, looks like an old divot there. It's on my target line. I'm going to use it as an intermediate target. Get my hands on the golf club softly back in here, Gary, so I don't have to work with my grip when I get over the golf ball. Try to aim my club carefully and work on my alignment here.
Good shot.
Good swing.
That's a beauty.
That's kind of what I had in mind.
I do a lot like you, Jim, is that I try to pick a spot down here, but I've also picked a target down there. There's that second hump, and I can see my ball going right, starting in that hump, and just kind of falling off the right. I use a lot of mental imagery when I play. That seems to help me more than working on mechanics. And I don't really have to go at this course with my longest, biggest hit right off the bat, even though this is a fairly long hole. I think that's a bad way to start, because our tendency is we're not quite ready for that, and when we swing too hard, we won't get it into place. I'm going to use a driver here, and I'm going to hit it about 80%, 75, 80%, what I call in second gear, kind of like a little safety shot down there. I'm just trying to make good contact. I'm not going to hit it real hard. I'm going to hit it less than full effort. Just start the game going, get out there and play somewhere. So I'm going to play a little cut shot down the left, coming back to the right, and set up for that right in my grip and alignment and aim. There we are. And now ready, and just like you said, Jim, now you just got to let her go.
Oh, that's a good swing, Gary.
And she drifted back, and we can play that one from there.
Yeah, that's
Peg,
well done.
you're next.
I'm ready.
Okay, Peg, your play. What do you think about, Peg, when you get on this first tee? I know you've had a lot of experience. You've played the LPGA Tour for over 20 years. I think it'd be helpful for both us and the viewers to see and to hear what you do on the first tee shot.
Well, first of all, it's important that I get off this tee, Gary. I mean, there are a lot of people around, and I want to start out with a good feeling off the first tee. So my mental thought would be to not try to hit it too hard. Make a good swing and finish the swing, and I would take a practice swing where I'd let the club come on around and bounce off my back so that I know I was really swinging through it.
No, I read one time where Peanut said, happiness is getting off the first tee on Sunday with a lot of people standing around. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, it really is. Must pick a spot out here. Oftentimes, people just stand up and they see the big fairway and they just swing out there, and you must pick a target, just like it was a pin. So I'm going to pick the left center here, taking my stance. I'm going to swing within myself, take two little waggles, and if you notice, I dance a little in my feet, keeping in motion.
Oh, that's a good one, Peg. Right down the middle. It's a keeper for sure.
Thank
Really
you.
nice motion, Peg.
Let's go get him.
Boy, Peg, you drove that ball right in the middle of the fairway, huh?
Right.
It's like about 155 from here, so.
Well, Gary, I'm going to pick my 5-iron because I would normally hit a by 5 iron from 150. And with that wind behind me, it's going to help me at least maybe 5 or 10 yards. So I'm going to choke that club down maybe an inch and really play it with a smooth swing. Trust it. Always take a little practice swing. Just line it up.
Yeah, looks good.
Go hard,
a little
ball.
left. Go hard. Going up. Just a little bit short. Okay.
I didn't quite catch it.
Right.
But
Okay.
Well, my ball ended up in the light rough on the left-hand side, a little bit of a downhill lie. I've got about 145 yards. The ball should fade a little bit from left to right, and I want to take a practice swing and identify where the club's going to run into the ground. Felt fairly comfortable there. That should be plenty deep.
That was solid.
Yeah.
good shot. Oh,
Yeah, that turned out well. That's back on the back of the green. That's okay.
Well, my shot ended up a little differently than I'd planned it. I'm down here on the very right side where I've caught a tree that I'm going to have to negotiate, either going over or going under. I could hit it over the top of the tree, but it's kind of shaky, a little questionable, and if I did happen to catch the tree, then my ball could come down and still not have a shot to the green. So I think the safest thing to do here is to play kind of under and around, taking a straight-bladed club, the kind that's easiest to spin the ball with sideways to curve it. I'm taking a 2-iron, I'm opening the blade up, I'm going to hit kind of like a little punch shot out to the left of the green, and it'll slice back a little bit and roll up somewhere around the green or hopefully on it. But even if I don't get the ball on the green, I'll be up close enough where I've got a good chance for a up and down and 2 with a chip and a good putt. So I'm setting the ball a little bit back, face a little open, making the practice swing to get the feel of how hard I'm going to swing to knock this ball up there. It's kind of a touch shot. I set it in here, and that's the shot I'm going to envision. Out to the left, a little back to the right, roll up by the green. It's going that way. I've cut it a little bit the right corner, and it rolls right off the right edge.
Good
So I've got
plan,
a pitch
Gary.
shot and a putt for my par.
here I have a uphill lie and the pin fairly close. So I've selected my pitching wedge. I'll walk up here to take a little better look at the green, come back down, and naturally I automatically choke down, and I'll stand with a slightly open stance. Take a practice swing to feel the amount of force I want to give it, and then I'll come right in and put it right up there.
That's a good one, Peg. Beauty.
Nice work, Peggy.
My ball's sitting up on top of the grass, and I don't want to slide my club underneath it, so I'm not going to use a lot of loft and 9-iron. My hand's a little ahead so that I catch the ball squarely in the back of the ball in the club face. The 9-iron will just get it up over the top of the green and let it roll to the hole. I take a little rehearsal strokes to feel my distance. And once I've felt the distance, then I picture it, where it's going to land and how it's going to roll the hole. And that's the shot I'm going to hit.
Beautiful
All
shot,
right.
Gary.
Thank you.
Peg, you want to mark that? Now I'm going to kind of get a feeling for distance that I have here. I'm going to stop halfway on the low side of the hole. I've already determined that the break is only a few inches, maybe 4 or 5 inches from right to left. What I'm really trying to get my mind organized to now is the distance that I have to negotiate. Really just trying to get my ball within about a 3-foot circle of the hole. I'm some 55 feet from the hole. I'm going to take a practice swing and identify the amount of stroke that I need for the distance that I have to go. I've run through my mind that the greens weren't cut this morning. Had a little rain. I feel I've got a line picked out. Now I'm going to aim my putter and get it aimed, turn direction off, and think strictly of distance and sense and feel the amount of stroke that I need for the distance I have to go.
That's pretty good, Jim.
Well, that's not too bad. That's pretty good for distance. Didn't come down any.
Well, we all have the ball fairly close to the hole now, and Peg and I have remarked, so we're going to tap these short putts in. One thing to remember on the short putt, the worst thing you can do on a short one is to leave it short. So we're going to all try to get the ball at least to the back of the hole.
How to Play Your Best Golf was produced in cooperation with the Wilson Sporting Goods Company, makers of the finest in golf equipment.